The House comes to questions for oral answer. Number 1, question in the name of Jono Naylor.
My question is to the Minister of Finance. What reports has he received about the stability of New Zealand's financial system?
Honourable Bill English.
The Reserve Bank recently issued its 6-monthly financial stability report, which I'm sure all members have read. It concluded that New Zealand's financial system remains sound and, according to a range of measures, the banking system is well capitalised, funding and liquidity buffers are above required minimum levels.
Order.
And non-performing loans continue to fall, which is good news because it means fewer businesses and people are defaulting on their loans. The Reserve Bank stress tests of all the major banks' portfolios over the past 6 months demonstrated that each bank has the capacity to manage a range of significant events.
Supplementary question, Jono Naylor.
According to the Reserve Bank, what are some of the ongoing risks and challenges facing New Zealand's financial system?
Order.
Mr. Speaker,
Honourable Bill English.
the Reserve Bank talked about 4 ongoing risks. Imbalances in the housing market, which is really about the constraints on supply that are putting pressure on prices. High levels of indebtedness in the dairy sector, which has seen significant falls in global prices. Potential effects of a slowdown in the Chinese economy, and the banking sector's continued, although lesser, reliance on offshore funding. The bank says these are the same risks it noted 6 months earlier, but it regards the financial system as sufficiently sound to be resilient to the realisation of these risks.
Supplementary question, Jono Naylor.
What did the Reserve Bank say in its financial stability report about the international economic environment and its possible impact on New Zealand?
Honourable Bill English.
Part of the Reserve Bank's job is to assess the risks in the global economic environment. It noted that growth is firming in the US, prompting a gradual removal of monetary policy stimulus and possibly rising interest rates there. However, monetary policy is seen remaining accommodating in Europe and Japan, both of which face weak outlooks for growth, if not recession. And they note that in China, a slowing housing market and tighter credit conditions have moderated growth. Overall, the global outlook is somewhat mixed, but our banking system and financial system is in good shape to handle any negative impacts from these risks.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Jono Naylor.
What other reports has he received regarding the better management of the financial system, and what impact will they have on New Zealand?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, over the weekend the Australian Financial System Inquiry reported. It makes a number of recommendations to reduce financial system risk. For instance, they recommend that the 4 big Australian banks, all of which have subsidiaries in New Zealand, improve their capital ratios as a way of improving the resilience of these banks. It's worth noting that the capital requirements for New Zealand banks are already at or above the levels recommended by the Australian Financial System Inquiry. Our requirements are relatively conservative when compared with banks from other countries. So that means that steps that may be taken by the Australian government to strengthen its banking system further will help to reinforce the strength of the New Zealand banking system.
Supplementary question, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Is it not a fact that Mr English, the Minister of Finance, has been holding out that the surplus is imminent for years? In reality, all he's ever done as the Minister of Finance is to deliver deficit after deficit.
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, as is often the case with opposition parties, they want you to get to surplus very quickly without cutting expenditure or putting up revenue. The government has taken a very reasonable approach, and yes, we have had 6 years of deficits, including financing a recession and the Christchurch earthquake. But if the member can just be patient, we will get to surplus.
Order. Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Will he, as the Minister of Finance, tell the New Zealand public the complete and unadulterated truth about the state of public finances? Oh, I know it's a laughing matter to them. The complete and unadulterated truth about the state of our finances as a country, instead of using the off again, on again, off again, on again deficit as a way of detracting from the truth.
Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, on December the 16th at I think about 1 p.m, the member should look out for it.
Supplementary question, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Is his intention to draw attention of the public to the on again, off again, on again, off again deficit, away from the, for example, scary numbers like $150 billion of liability that we owe the rest of the world, or the really serious figure, government debt up to $65 billion, over 6 times higher than the amount that he inherited as Minister of Finance?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, unlike that member, I don't underestimate the New Zealand public. I think the New Zealand public have a very good understanding of the challenges that the government has faced in managing its books. In fact, they've been remarkably resilient, tolerant and forward-looking in supporting the policies of this government that are enabling us to get back to surplus.
Question number 2, Dr Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My